This is a presentation of National Streaming Sports. Over 20 podcasters, 70 weekly shows, and a 3.4-star rating on Roku TV.
I don't know, Jack. It's a big decision.
I've often said that the people who run baseball, they try very hard to ruin it.
I'm from Brooklyn. I don't have a problem with saying space.
Pittsburgh at Buffalo.
Thank you. Yeah, I thought I was right. So anyway,
Yeah, Mac, you're really interested in these playoffs.
so
This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good morning. You're listening to the Mac and Jack Sports Show on Northeast Streaming Sports.
Thank you very much. Well, here we are, Jack. It's the midweek sports update here on the Mac and Jack Sports Show. Good morning, everyone. Glad you joined us this morning. And you know, Jack, as we've been saying, sports is kind of slow. No NBA, no NFL active. You know, we're looking at some of the Olympic things, exhibition games, summer leagues, all this good stuff. But there's always things to talk about, especially when it comes to me and you in sports. And today I want to start off with the NFL. The NFL is always a story. There's always something going on in the NFL. And right now, David Guyette, we haven't heard from you in a while. Good morning, David. Wow, how you been, my friend? I'm glad you joined us this morning. In the NFL, of course, there's a lot of training camp news. And the biggest news is people that aren't in camp, Jack, right now. And your Jets are front and center of one of the stories where Hassan Reddick, who was sent to the Jets in some kind of trade with no extension, and I guess Reddick thought that the Jets were going to extend him right away, or so. I guess. I don't know what he was thinking, but he's got a year left on his contract. And, Jack, he's not in camp. And let me finish this. This is amazing to me. And Reddick says he didn't request to be traded to the Jets. The Eagles just did it. So what do you think about all this?
Well, I think there's a distinct lack of communication, or someone's not telling the truth here. I mean, certain training camp news is created because people want a story and it's meaningless. Oh, Aaron Rodgers missed the OTAs. Who cares if he missed a couple of OTAs 10 weeks before the season? You know he's going to be ready for the season. It's inconsequential. It really is. But this Hassan Reddick story, this is starting to become big because it's got to get resolved one way or the other. I mean, the team could stand hard and firm and not do anything. You got to just come and play. And what's Hassan Reddick's alternative? Not to show up altogether. Then he's basically retiring off. He sits out the year. He decreases his market value for next year. Things are going to be even harder to make a deal because he's going to be a defensive end in his 30s, okay? When you think, coming off a year layoff, when you think he would start declining, so he's not going to get a good deal from anyone if he sits out. But then again, the Jets are spiting themselves. If they're all in on winning the Super Bowl, they need him. They have a great defensive unit as he is. It's like a cake and not having that cherry on top to make it look good. So they really need Hassan Reddick there, and they got to work something up. The thing that astonishes me, how it got to this point, He had no guaranteed money on his deal this year. Why didn't the Jets just step forward and work it out and guarantee his contract for the year? That's all that really had to be done, and it wasn't done. So, and now he's going to be fined $50,000 a day. It's not retroactive, so they're going to have to give him a bigger contract to make up the $50,000, which they might not be ready to do because of possible cap implications. And it's messy, but you figure it has to get resolved at some point. Maybe the player just wants to miss training camp, coming right before the season, figuring, okay, I'll get fined, but they'll readjust my contract, so I'll make that money up, and I miss training camp, but I'll be there for the season. Only he knows what he's thinking, Reddick. Only he knows.
I'll tell you, I don't know what I would do if I was a GM in this spot. If everything is true, being said is true, I mean, Jack, I mean, you got a great defense without him. And I mean, I don't know. I mean, do you just say, get out of here? I don't know. I mean, and the draft picks, of course, wouldn't count. I mean, you would have to give Eagles, they're dependent on he plays. So it's not like you owe the Eagles anything, I would imagine. So,
well, they already gave the Eagles a third-round draft choice to get rid of. So they gave that draft capital, which they can't get back. The only way you could get the draft capital back is if that team knew the player was injured, they were holding something back, they were deceiving the Jets, but reportedly they didn't. The Jets saw a big-name player, a future Hall of Famer that they can nab, who still had a lot left in the tank, and the Jets were so anxious to make the deal that maybe they didn't ask the questions that should have been asked. And maybe, Howie Roseman, the Eagle GM, saw this is going to be a problem dealing with Reddick's contract. Let me move him to the Jets now. And the Jets, keep in mind, they lost Bryce Huff as a free agent to the Eagles, a defensive end. So they basically flip-flop. Bryce hung for Reddick, and Reddick is a little better player because Huff played within the Jets system. Reddick could wreak havoc, on the quarterback on his own.
And
traded, and they don't have Bryce Huff now, the Jets. They would have been losing.
And Reddick was more an every down player. He plays the run well too. Huff was, Huff came in a lot on the passing downs. He's more of a pass rushing specialist. So Reddick, I think you're right, is a better player than Huff. So they got to get that done.
But this is newsworthy. This isn't nonsense like with Aaron Rodgers, with the talk.
Right.
People looking to create news, create a buzz that doesn't exist. I mean, this is really newsworthy. If he doesn't come to the Jets can win without him.
Oh, yeah. There's no doubt.
They have a good enough defense, but he's that little added piece that you never know can make a difference. Oh, look what happened with the Kansas City Chiefs last year with Chris Jones. Chris Jones was the anchor of their defense. He missed the first game of the year.
Yeah.
And the holdout was news, but then Jones came back. The Chiefs worked something out with them, but Jones had a body of work with the Chiefs, winning Super Bowls. The Jets don't have a relationship with Reddick yet.
And not only that, Jack, Jones is the disruptor of the Chiefs. As you said, Reddick is not the best player on the Jets right now, because he hasn't played for the Jets yet. But you have some really good defensive players on that side.
He's a key piece. Good point. Outside of Patrick Mahomes, you can argue that Chris Jones is the most valuable play on the Kansas City Chiefs, even more so than Travis Kelce.
You definitely could.
You can make that argument, but with the Jets with Reddick, you can't make that argument. But if he shows up and he's at the top of his game and has a great season, then you could make an argument he's as valuable. He'll be as valuable to anyone on the Jets. But he's not there. And you wonder him not being in camp when he does sign. Some players can show up and get it together pretty quick. But when you're an older player, you're missing camp and you show up, there are no guarantees you're going to be as good as you
more importantly than physically, Jack, which I imagine he's staying in shape, is to know the Jets system, to learn the scheme, to learn what the defense does. That may take a little bit more time, and to work out the timing with the players, right? You're working with the players. This guy's doing this. You're supposed to be doing that. All that good stuff has to be worked out. Him not being in camp will kind of slow that process down a little bit. I imagine, Jack, he's staying in shape. There's no doubt he's not working out and doing his thing. I don't think he's just sitting back and, drinking margaritas. So let's get to another big name, Jordan Love. Jordan Love is at the camp but will not take the practice field until he gets a contract, according to what he's saying. So he's not going to get fined. He's there, but he's not going to go on the practice field. The Green Bay Packers are in an unbelievable fix right now, Jack. The Green Bay Packers have no other choice but to sign this man. And while Jordan Love played really well near the end of the year and into the playoffs, during the first part of the year, the first 8 games or 7 games, he was up and down. He had a rough season. At the end, he put it together. So is really, and this is 1 year. So is Jordan Love the quarterback that was up and down, or is Jordan Love the quarterback that showed up in the playoffs? That I don't think they know yet. So if you're the Green Bay Packers and you're going to make them an offer, let's say the basement is Daniel Jones at 40 million a year. And Joe Burrow's Trevor Lawrence is $55 million a year as the GM of the Packers. What are you going to give this guy? How do you figure out what this guy is worth?
The Packers don't have a choice. He's not going to accept Daniel Jones' money. His agents made it clear the deal they're looking for is to make him the highest paid quarterback in NFL history. It would exceed Trevor Lawrence's $55 million, and Jordan Love is holding up. Now, if Jordan Love is the type of quarterback that he was the second half of the year going forward, yeah, you give him the money. You don't have any apprehension at all because he's going to be a quarterback the next 10 years. He's going to be a franchise quarterback. He's going to be the next Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers. He's going to be another, in the line of great Green Bay quarterbacks. But if you make him the highest paid quarterback in history and he's no more than an average quarterback, I mean, you are in a spot. You are in a bad spot. And the Packers have to think about this too, Mac. They have, what do they have, like 4 years invested in Jordan Love?
Yeah.
4 or 5 years invested, I forgot. And you put all that time in the guy. You move up in the draft to draft him in the first round. And because you do that, you created all that Aaron Rodgers drama. And you couldn't get Jordan Love into the starting lineup because Aaron Rodgers won 2 MVP awards. 2 years in a row, he won the MVP. So Jordan Love is on the bench. And then he's on the bench his 3rd year. And then last year was his 4th year, I'm sorry. And then finally he comes of age in his 4th year. The second half of the year, he looks great. Was that a little bit of an aberration? Was that a team thing? Was he just being an excellent game manager? Or what do you do? 49ers are going to have that same situation with Brock Purdy, but at least they'll have an extra whole year to see what Brock Purdy does. If Purdy's great this year, they can safely give him the money. But Jordan Love, you need 1 more year to see what he can do.
I agree.
The problem is you risk losing him as a free agent, or the price even goes up higher. It keeps going higher and higher and higher on these quarterbacks. And I'm not sure what you do if you're the Packers. We don't have answers for everything, Matt.
I'm telling you, I got an answer. If I'm the GM of any team, because of these quarterback salaries, I draft a quarterback every year. Every year, maybe even in the early rounds. I'm not saying first, second or third, I draft a young quarterback. I don't care who's available. I'm doing that because after a couple years, and I'll throw a quarterback out there. Let's say I'm trying to think of a good one that was a lower draft pick. I can't remember his name right now. But anyway, he was a lower draft pick. I think the Saints picked him up, if I'm not mistaken. I draft a quarterback every year. Every year I draft a quarterback. And if the quarterback I draft that year I drafted him is no good by the end of training camp or next year, I draft another quarterback who may be better. Because once I get that quarterback that is okay, good enough to be a starter, and I get this prima donna quarterback that wants $60 million a year, I ship him out, Jack. I ship that guy right out. You go make your $60 million somewhere else, and I will have a good quarterback that will. And I will
Quiet
have,
down, Mac, already. What are you mumbling about?
I'm telling you what I do. I'm telling you what I do.
I'm trying not to cut in out of politeness, Mac. It makes no sense.
It
You're
makes
the same
plenty of
Mac.
sense. Plenty of sense, Jack. Listen, I am not going to be held hostage by a quarterback that we don't even know who he is yet. What they did with Jordan Love with Aaron Rodgers, they should have done after Aaron Rodgers left, they should have drafted another young quarterback who has potential. That's what I would have done. And that's what I would do every year or every 2 years of a GM.
Mac, you're the same guy who said the Bears shouldn't have drafted Caleb Williams. Oh, stick with Justin Fields.
Yeah.
But Mac, had they stuck with Justin Fields, at the end of this season, they were going to have to make a decision, the Bears, whether to give him big quarterback money or not. And let's say Justin Fields had a few really good games and finished the season strong. You mean to tell me you would have made Justin Fields one of the highest paid quarterbacks in the league?
Oh, no.
Absolutely not. So you would have been stuck without a quarterback.
I would not have drafted Caleb. I would not have drafted. You're missing my point. I would not have drafted Caleb Williams. I would have drafted Marvin Harris Jr. And in the lower rounds, I would have drafted a good quarterback.
But they're not good quarterbacks in the lower rounds unless you get lucky.
Stop. I can give you example after example of quarterbacks in the lower rounds that have become starters and have become Super Bowl champions by that matter, or at least have made it to the playoffs consistently.
Mac, you're living in la-la land. The next thing you can do is mention Tom Brady. Oh, you can get great value in the 6th round. Look at Tom Brady. Right. And the Yankees should sit tight because they could get a Babe Ruth type player. They got Babe Ruth from the Red Sox. So the Yankees should sit tight. They'll get the next Babe Ruth. Come on, Mac.
What do you mean sit tight?
The elite quarterbacks are hard to get.
No, let me tell you something. They're over 60% of the first round quarterbacks are no good. They're no longer a starter.
Mac.
They're no longer on a team, Jack.
Mac, just look at divisions, go down team by team, and look at where their starting quarterback was drafted. The vast majority starters were drafted very high first-round picks.
No, that is not 100% accurate.
Let's go. You want to start going division? The first-round picks. The Jets. Aaron Rodgers is the first-round.
The Jets didn't draft him. No,
it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
That doesn't count. You're talking about a trade. That doesn't count, Jack. Zach Wilson. That's your first-round pick. Sam Darnold. That's your first-round pick. You want to talk about the Jets? The Jets did not draft Aaron Rodgers. You're last. No. I'm not letting you get away with this. I'm not letting you get away with this. Your first 2-round draft picks, last 2 first-round quarterback draft picks are Sam Darnold and Zach Wilson. Where are they?
Mac, this is the point. Sam Darnold's a starter for the Vikings.
Oh,
the first-round pick is a starter.
For the Vikings.
Okay. So what are you saying? You're saying not to pay them the money. Give me a case of a quarterback that was drafted low outside of Brock Purdy. That's an aberration. Outside of Brock Purdy.
Dak Prescott.
He was a 4th-round selection.
4th round. That's below the first couple rounds, right? Dak Prescott. Russell Wilson. Wait.
Russell Wilson was drafted. He's not but you can't have it both ways. He was a 2nd-round selection. He was drafted high early in the 2nd round.
I'll give you that. You are correct. I'll give you that.
But he's not with Seattle.
I'll give you that. I'm giving you that.
I can use Rodgers as an example with the Jets.
With Seattle, you said first off, you said first round. But second of all, with Seattle, what did he do with Seattle as their second round draft pick? Yeah.
He was drafted on the fringes of the first round. Russell
Second
Wilson.
round draft pick, Jack. What did he do with the Seattle Seahawks?
The second's still high if you're on the
You said
fringes.
first round. I'm talking. We're talking first round. Now you're saying that's good enough. Jordan Love, Jack. Where was he drafted?
First round.
First round. You sure?
Yeah. The Packers traded to move up to get him in the first
You are correct.
round.
You are correct. Jalen Hurts. Where was he drafted, Jack?
Early in the second
Second
round, and they traded up to get him.
Second round. You can't have it both ways.
That's still high, but listen, first couple of rounds is still high.
Mac Jones. Where was he drafted?
First round, 15th overall.
Trey Lance. Where was he drafted?
Number 3 overall. The Niners gave.
I told you I could do this all day.
Okay, but you're not making a point. Show me starting quarterbacks were drafted lowly. Don't show me the ones that didn't make it.
I just told you. Dak Prescott.
Gave me Dak Prescott. You gave me one guy, and
Brock
you could
Purdy,
add in
Dak
Brock
Prescott,
Purdy.
Russell Wilson.
I'll give you one. Russell Wilson's drafted highly. I'll give you another one.
Okay.
But he's not with this team. So how can you count him? Kirk Cousins was a 4th round draft choice. I'm going to give you one.
Kirk Cousins did start with the Washington Redskins, Jack.
Yeah, he did.
And he had a good year.
He moved around. Correct. He had a good year. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. Anyways, I'm just telling you what the percentages are. 60%, over 60%.
You wouldn't have paid Patrick Mahomes the money. You would have moved on from him at some point.
I would have in camp, and Patrick Mahomes has been unbelievable with the Chiefs. That man has been unbelievable.
You wouldn't have known that. You would have gotten rid of him.
I wouldn't have gotten rid of him.
He was in position to command the big money because he was a prima donna.
Patrick Mahomes threatened to not go to camp.
If Patrick Mahomes didn't practice because he was holding out to be the highest paid player before he's won all these Super Bowls,
did he do that? No, he did not do that. So all I'm saying, Jack, is
he's in camp with the team.
I would not want to be in a position that the Green Bay Packers are right now. I would not want to be in that position, and I would do everything in my power because Jordan Love's contract is going to take up a chunk of the Green Bay Packers, a chunk of their salary cap. I do not, as a GM, want to be in that position.
I believe in Jordan Love. I believe he's going to be one of the best. You have to make. Well, they have to make a decision.
I know.
But
if they had a competent, I'll give you another example. All right. Right now, the Houston Texans' second string quarterback is Cooper Rush, right?
That's the Dallas Cowboys' second string.
Right. Cooper. No, he's now with the Houston Texans.
When did he get traded?
I'm telling you, the second string quarterback right now, from what I understood, I just saw a show.
Cowboys, Cooper Rush. He's the second stringer with the Cowboys.
And
Trey Lance is third string with the Cowboys.
I thought Trey Lance is now second string and Cooper Rush moved over. I got to check it out. This is what I was watching.
Cooper Rush is second string.
Okay, I was watching.
Maybe there's a competition going on in camp. When the season starts, it's possible Trey Lance will be second string.
You might be right, and this other guy might have been wrong. I got to check that out because if Cooper Rush was moved to Houston Texans are set. I mean, now they got a second string quarterback. I'm gonna have to verify that, Jack. You might be right.
So you're saying in a couple of years, C.J. Stroud's if he keeps playing the way he is.
I'm drafting
holding out to be the big money. You would move on from him.
I'm drafting. If I'm in Houston, Texas, I'm drafting a good quarterback next year. I'm doing
it. So you're going to hurt yourself in other positions, your team, and you're going to do the quarterback carousel.
What I'm going to do, Jack, is have insurance. I'm going to have insurance because I don't want to pay somebody $70 million when it's his time. I'm not doing that.
Teams are doing that. Teams are taking.
I know they are.
The Jets drafted a quarterback. What in the the 5th round or something like that? I forgot from Florida.
Let's look at the quarterbacks that have made the most amount of money, that have got the biggest contracts right now. What has Trevor Lawrence done for the Jacksonville Jaguars so far?
Well, he's gotten up to the playoffs, but Mac,
What?
he's
Wait,
obvious-
let me finish. What has Joe Burrows? Now I know he took him a long way. He's been hurt. Joe Burrows has been hurt for most of his NFL career so far. In fact, that's part of the news. He is ready for contact again. So we'll see what happens with him this year. A great quarterback. I cannot say enough about Joe Burrows. I think he's one of the top three, when healthy, one of the top three quarterbacks in the league, in my opinion, anyway.
Well, he took the Bengals to the Super Bowl already.
Right. I'm saying, Jack, I think he's one of the greatest, but when healthy, but he's not healthy. He's hurt all the time.
It's a tough one. It's a tough evaluation at times.
I agree.
But Burrow, I think they make the deal. Tua's more of a
you're reading my mind, my friend. That's where I was going next. Tua's coming up for a contract. Jordan Love gets $60 million a year. Tua has done more, has a bigger body of work than Jordan Love. Right? He's been with the Dolphins. Last year, great year for Tua, even though he lost in the playoffs, like Jordan Love did. So should Tua get paid $60 million a year, Jack?
Mac, when you pay a player, you're paying him more so on what he can do for you going forward as opposed to what he's done in the past.
I agree.
So you evaluate Tua and Burrow, both their teams. Is this player likely to stay healthy? What's his injury history? Right. And what's his potential if he stays healthy? How much better is he going to be? In the case of Joe Burrow, he doesn't have to get any better. He just has to be the same and see
Jordan
the
Love.
field.
We're comparing.
Jordan Love is a very hard evaluation because do you believe in him? The Giants gave Daniel Jones a contract. They didn't go all in but a couple of years, and it was deceiving. It was based on a smaller body of work. Daniel Jones having one decent season. And the Giants were a little bit fooled into giving him the contract. Now, maybe Daniel Jones has a good year this year, and are the Giants fooled again? Are they going to say, this is our guy? You look at the whole body of work and then think, what is he likely to do going forward? You look at Tua's college career. He was elite in college, elite. Right. He has tremendous potential, but he's had the concussions. So I think in the case of Tua, the question is, do you think this player is going to stay healthy? If you think there's a good chance he'll stay healthy, I think you give him the money. I think you stick it out because even if Tua isn't as good as you think he's going to be, he's still going to be okay. Worst case scenario, as long as he's healthy, he'll be okay. In Joe Burrow, worst case scenario, he'll just be good. That's worst case scenario as long as he sees the field. But the upside, Joe Burrow, Hall of Fame if he's healthy and he's on the field. And Tua has tremendous potential.
I'm not comparing Tua to Burrows. I'm comparing him to Jordan Love. They said that Jordan Love, their agent wants him to make $60 million a year. That's what they're shooting for. Okay, they want him to be the highest paid quarterback in the league. If he is the highest paid quarterback in the league, and Tua, who has had a better body of work, has done the same thing Jordan Love has done, what is Tua worth?
Nothing about Tua's body of work hasn't been that great. He hasn't taken the team on a deep playoff run.
Neither's Jordan
Love. No. But the Packers have a lot invested in Jordan Love, like Miami has in Tua. If Jordan Love continues to improve, you're talking about someone who's could be a top 3 quarterback in the league. And you're not gonna replace him with one of these draft picks. They even come close to it.
If is a big word, Jack. If is a huge word.
You have to take a chance. They're gonna have to take a chance.
I'll tell you right now. I'll tell you right now. I would offer Jordan Love somewhere in the vicinity of maybe 48 to 50 million. If that's not enough, I've got to find another quarterback. I got to go to free agency and find another quarterback. I am not paying that man $60 million.
Mac, it's not like you're firing a secretary and say, "Get me another secretary."
I am not paying a person that I don't know if he's my guy or not. I am not paying him $60 million a year for 3 years, 4 years. I'm not doing it.
Mac, so what are you going to do if you're the Packers? Jordan Love, I think they could hold on to him an additional year,
Yes.
franchising him.
Yes.
So I think he'd be there a couple of more years.
Right.
But ultimately, he then leaves. And you can't keep franchising a quarterback because then you wind up paying them more money
I
than
agree.
you would have even that they asked for.
I agree, but I
And
would
what
at
you do
least,
big-
I would at least franchise him for 1 year, Jack. I want to see what this guy really has.
Well, you see them in practice every day, and you're having a good idea. They're very high on Jordan. Mac. They, the thing is, you kind of wonder how high they are. Now, let me backtrack, because last year they gave him a 1-year deal. They didn't quite give him starting quarterback money, but they gave him something in between the start and the reserve. It was one of these, show me what you could do.
Right.
And in the first half of the year, he was so-so. But that was okay that he was struggling a little because they realized he hadn't been playing as a starter. And then he put it together. By the end of last year, he looked like an elite quarterback. But are we being fooled the way we were fooled with Daniel Jones and the Giants?
Yeah,
That's the
Jack.
question.
Do you know how many quarterbacks have had a nice 5-6 game run that never amounted to anything? I mean, to me, it's a very difficult situation, and I get
It's
that.
difficult. It's difficult. But the Packers are going to have to take a chance.
One
Either
more,
they're gonna be all
one
in or
more,
not.
Jack. One more. CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb. It said he's not going to report to training camp. That's what's in the news. He's not going to be in training camp. I think
Let
CeeDee
him
Lamb.
stay home, C.D.
I
Lamb.
think
C.D. Lamb should not be paid as one of the highest receivers in the
I
NFL.
think
He's
CeeDee
not one of the
Lamb.
best.
I'll be honest with you, Jack. I think CeeDee Lamb is the most important offseason signing they have to do.
More than Dak Prescott?
Yes. Dak Prescott has the Cowboys right where he wants. I mean, that has got to have to, there's going to have to be a decision made. I agree with that. All right. I think Dak Prescott is a top 10 quarterback, maybe top 8. I like Dak Prescott, especially after last year. I think he's mature enough now. I don't think he lost the playoffs. That was the Dallas defense that lost that playoff game. I think Dak
He
Prescott
played Dak in that game.
But he did put up what, 28 points, 38 points, whatever.
And he also threw a pick six that was damaging.
He did.
So
That happens. It happens.
To me, you're asking, yeah.
Yes, I'm asking you about CeeDee Lamb. I think, in my opinion, and I'm putting CeeDee Lamb or Micah Parsons, CeeDee Lamb all day.
Micah Parsons, the type of defensive player he is. Unfortunately, Micah Parsons hasn't been a lead on the Cowboys defense the way you'd want him to. But, he's a great individual player. But it's tough decisions the Cowboys have. None of them are exactly like a slam dunk. Micah Parsons, something about him bothers me. He's not like a T.J. Watt with the Steelers. T.J. Watt anchors the Steelers defense.
Yes.
You know how vitally important he is. The way the defense, you build a defense around him. Something about Micah Parsons, I don't think you build a defense around him. Micah Parsons is just an outstanding individual talent, an outstanding individual player, but you don't quite build a defense around him.
That is the best assessment I ever heard about Michael Parsons. I 100% agree with that. I never thought of it like that. I know he's not a leader. I know that he's off field and he talks too much. I think if I'm the head coach, I don't know what McCarthy is. If I'm the head coach, I sit down with Michael Parsons. This, you want to be paid, and with the GM too. You want to be paid. This is what I need from you.
Well, I think they do. Mike McCarthy has no say in telling them you want to get paid.
Well,
Mike McCarthy, if they have a bad year, might get fired this year. So he's not nuts.
I think, and I agree with that too. But I think Mike McCarthy would be an important part of that discussion.
We're talking about all these things, especially the quarterback signings. And a quarterback, unlike a receiver, a defensive player, it's very hard to replace. A Micah Parsons, you could put someone else in this position. Maybe he won't be as good as Micah Parsons. He probably wouldn't be, but he could still hold things down to an extent. The same thing with a receiver. You could maybe get someone short-term who can be good, but maybe not as good as CeeDee Lamb, but still good enough for your team could win. But a quarterback, there's a big difference in the long term. Now, I understand the Cowboys won when Cooper Rush came in for Dak Prescott when Dak was hurt. But if you're going to go all the way and the player's going to have to be a full-time quarterback like Cooper Rush, there's apprehension.
What's the biggest knock against Dak Prescott? It's not that he's not a great quarterback, because compared to the other quarterbacks,
he's very good.
The knock against him is that when it comes playoff time or championship time, he can't do it. Last year, I take exception to that. I really think the defense let him down. I think even with that pick six, Jack, they still scored 38, 34 points, whatever it was, enough points to win. They should have won. The defense should have stepped up against the Packers, and they couldn't. They didn't. So I don't put that on Dak Prescott. And the San Francisco game is probably the most publicized, most thing talked about, when Dak Prescott ran down the field and there was no time left on the clock.
They would have had only one play left, and they would have had to throw something like a 17-yard pass, 20-yard pass, wherever they were.
Maybe.
Who knows what would have happened, but it would have left them one play. I don't want to hear course.
Agree, Jack, but that's the biggest knock I hear about that one thing that happened against San Francisco. That's the biggest knock I've heard about Dak Prescott. But as you said, he ran out of time. Whatever happened there, if he did get the down the ball with 1 second left, 17-yard line, there's a chance. There's a chance, right? I mean, something could have happened. We don't know. We'll never know. But that's the biggest knock against him. I really think that a lot of quarterbacks in that position would have done the same thing, to be honest with you. Right? Don't you?
But you do have to face the problem of paying guys. Sometimes you catch lightning in a bottle. I'll give you an example. Let's say the Cowboys had gotten Baker Mayfield. Let's say he was a start on the Cowboys. You might be able to win with Baker Mayfield just as easily as you would with Dak Prescott. But Baker, but you'd have to pay him eventually.
There is something about Baker Mayfield that irks me. I'm saying he's a good quarterback. You know, I mean, they just missed. I mean, that one stupid play against Kansas City. They almost knocked the Chiefs out of playoffs. And last year he did good. But there's something about Baker Mayfield that bothers me, especially as the quarterback with his. I believe that Doug Flutie is a better quarterback than Baker Mayfield, technically. I don't think Doug Flutie got the shot that Baker Mayfield has got. There's something about Baker.
Good comparison.
There's something about Baker Mayfield that I don't think he can do it. It's something on the field. He makes some good throws, and then he makes the worst throws I've ever seen in my life. I mean, and it's not like he's a Brett Favre who can overcome that. When he makes mistakes, he can't overcome that.
But keep this in mind. He quarterbacked the Cleveland Browns for 4 years. He was the number one overall choice in the draft. And you have to ask, was his time in Cleveland a failure? And on balance, the answer would be no, because I'm going to tell you why. Okay. The reason the Browns moved on from Baker Mayfield, they had an opportunity to get Deshaun Watson. And they're thinking, we have an opportunity to get one of the best quarterbacks in the game. And they were all in on it. Was more a case of them wanting Deshaun Watson. If Deshaun Watson wasn't available, Baker Mayfield would have come back as the quarterback.
I agree.
So it wasn't they moved on from, but then when Baker Mayfield went to the Rams, he backed up Matthew Stafford, and he was good there, but he was given the starting job by the Carolina Panthers, and he flopped. He was bad. Yeah. He was flat out bad when he was given this opportunity at Carolina. And then he's thrown a lifeline, winding up with Tampa Bay, and he played well last year. But they gave him a 2-year deal, something like $30 million a year. They didn't give him elite quarterback money. No. They invested in 2 years. Baker was smart enough to meet him halfway because he knew he wasn't going to get the elite quarterback money. He was just happy to get a wonderful 2-year deal, but not, somewhere in the middle.
I agree. So let's talk a little bit about Team USA. They played Germany closer than what it should have been. LeBron James took over the 39-year-old Jack. I'm giving him a hard time. The team is old. The oldest member on the team is the one who made the last 11 points and propelled the USA to win that last exhibition game. But LeBron James is he is not the example. He's the exception to the example. Without LeBron James, they lose that game. And I want to focus a little bit on Durant. All right.
You got LeBron James.
I did because I don't think you could. I don't think you
mix food, Matt, when you cook them.
I don't think you're going to disagree with me with LeBron. All right. LeBron is the exception to the rule. Kevin Durant is hurt.
Oh, you went to Durant. I thought you were going down Roberto Duran.
No.
Said Durant.
Yes, Kevin Durant.
Oh, it sounds close. Duran, who you said you were going to talk about in Durant.
Right.
Okay.
Right. We're going to try and get to Durant.
Durant. You only had a T to the end of it. Cool.
Yes, look at that.
And
you can tell just
never mind.
Just because you said that, you could tell what a skilled writer you are. The point I'm making is Kevin Durant has that swollen knee, or calf. He is not going to play. He will not play in the Olympic trials. He's not going to be. They may usher him in with the last 30 seconds in the last game. Why is he there, Jack? Why do they have a guy with a swollen calf that's not going to play, is going to sit on the bench? Why is Kevin Durant there? And I'm tired of hearing because he's been a great star for the last 20 years. Why is he there?
If it's accurate what you're saying, his medical condition, and he's very limited in what he can do, he shouldn't be there.
Well,
I mean, it's not like 1992 with the Dream Team. Some people are questioning, well, why's Larry Bird there? He has a bad back. He's past his peak. He's this, he's that. The United States knew they were going to win in 1992. They were so much better than the opposition. They could afford to stick Bird on the bench. If they put him in, at least he has the smarts, how he's going to pass the ball or whatever. It was more like an exhibition, the Dream Team playing the other teams. They weren't going to be challenged. And the other teams would be asking their players for autographs, photos. That's how intimidated they were. United States is in serious jeopardy and not winning a gold medal, very serious jeopardy. And you need players who could play. I mean, I would rather have a Jalen Brunson than a Kevin Durant, especially if Kevin Durant is impaired in what he could contribute. But it's also hard, Mac. Once you select a player for the team and he's a member of the team, you can't just send him home unless he's injured to the point where he can't play at all. You can't, as soon as a player tweaks something, okay, I'm bringing in someone else,
Well, he's missed all the exhibition games, Jack. He hasn't played. Well, he played that one time and he hurt his calf, and that's it. He didn't play last time.
But is he going to be ready?
He's sitting on the bench, Jack, because his calf is still bad.
Well, maybe he's healing up for when they need him later, where he could make a big contribution.
What happens?
We don't know.
What happens if they lose the second game and he can't go in there and maybe help out?
You can't just send him
they
home
got a roster.
He,
oh, yes, you can. They got a roster that they can pull.
Together.
They have a roster they can pull from players that aren't there. I imagine Jaylen Brown's on there. I imagine Jalen Brunson would be considered. I imagine maybe a couple of other great players that had a good year last year are on that pool that they can draw from. This
Mac,
is all,
it's not that easy.
It would
Mac. There has to be a bit of team chemistry. You bring in a new guy. He hasn't been practicing. He can't just take the court and blend so easily.
Kevin Durant is not part of the chemistry if he's not playing. What chemistry is with Kevin Durant?
He's practiced with the guys.
Is he?
Yeah, he's part of the team. He knows the system. And also, there's a small X factor, too. His Olympic coach, Steve Kerr, was his coach with the Warriors. He knows Kerr's coaching style and system more than a Jaylen Brown would, for example.
Right. So
when healthy, he's a better player than Jaylen Brown on top of it.
Kevin Durant, well, he's a better scorer. I don't know if he's a better player. So he is Steve Kerr's boy. You are correct. That's part of it.
No, I mean there's a relationship there.
Yeah, there is. There definitely is. Anyways, let's go on to the MLB. The sellers. Now these teams, Jack, as we talked about before the show, are 90% sure they're gonna sell. You know, the teams like the Mets and the Padres.
I thought you were talking about the Met-Yankee game yesterday.
Who knows? I
that
ain't
was
talking about that yet. I don't even. I don't
Well, I
know.
like to talk a little about
I don't
it.
even. Well, if we get through this, maybe we'll be able to. So the 4 teams I'm going to talk about, of course, first one to start with the Chicago White Sox, 27-75. They have 2 very good starters yet, Garrett Crochet and Eric Frede. 2 good starters that could help out any team that's in the race right now, and you know they can get some resources for these guys. That's how good they are, even though they got a losing record. Those 2 pitchers, I think, will be traded somewhere, Jack. Whether it's to some team. I don't know if the Yankees. I don't know if the Indians. Any team with a starting pitching staff that needs another starter, even if he's a 3rd or 4th starter. I'm thinking these 2 guys are gone, and the White Sox.
I don't know. You know what's deceiving about baseball at the trade market? People think because a team's out of it, they should be sellers. You got to think of next year too. Are you going to trade someone who can help you next year just because you're not having a good year this year? What are you getting in return?
Exactly.
Is that the route you want to do? You want to trade an established player who's under contract for prospects because you're not having a good year? And what's that player going to get you back? That's what you've got to ask.
Yeah, I agree.
mean, they were saying it about the Mets before the Mets got into the wild card hunt. Oh, they have chips. They could trade Pete Alonso and Jeff McNeil. But what were they going to get back to make it worthwhile? A team is not going to give elite prospects to get a rental. Once in a while, I shouldn't say that. Once in a while they could. The Yankees got Gleyber Torres for Adonis Chapman when Chapman was on his walk year. They traded Chapman to the Cubs because the Cubs were making a serious run to the World Series, and they were getting an elite reliever that could push them. That would be a true difference maker. So, you know, it's tough making the deal. And if I'm the Yankees, I don't give up a guy like Juan Dominguez.
Let me get through the list. First, let me get through the list here because there's other players I want to talk about. But again, I think these are teams that would give up a little bit to maybe get, as you said, rent or whatever, or maybe sign later. Who knows? So let's go to the Marlins. They're 35-65. They got a good center fielder, Jazz Chisholm. He's on his way to have a 2020 season. And they have a great lefty reliever, Jack. Tanner Scott, 1.27 ERA, 16 saves. That a lot of teams will be looking for a reliever. Center fielder, position player, maybe. But that reliever will be the key to some teams.
How long is he on the contract for? I'm not a buyer unless I can have the guy on the contract beyond this year. I don't want a rental for a guy. I'm not giving up a prospect for a rental. A prospect who I think right now can help my team down the road.
I'll tell you right now, if I'm the Baltimore Orioles and I need a reliever, I'm renting him. If he's that good, I'm renting him. I want to go to the World Series.
Well, if you're the Orioles, you have the chips in your minor league system. Are you giving up an elite prospect?
I am looking at a reliever with a 1.27 ERA in the right now in the MLB with 16 saves, Jack. I agree
with him.
I'm going.
Again, are they under contract beyond the year?
Well, these are the players that they say that they would. That these are the best players that these losing
I can see in the case of a team like the Orioles, if you want to be all in, and maybe the Yankees, I can understand that there's an urgency maybe to win now, but all the teams have an urgency to win now. You don't think the Dodgers have a real urgency?
I agree. I don't know what the reliever situation is with the Dodgers. I know the Orioles would love to have a closer like this. And you mentioned the Yankees. Of course, the Yankees would too. Toronto, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Jack. Will he leave Toronto? I don't know. They could get a haul for Vladimir Guerrero.
Is he in his walk year this year?
He's available from what they're saying. He's available to be had. Do you? Yankees don't have a first baseman. Do you?
Well, if I can get Vlad Guerrero and have him beyond this year, yeah, absolutely. You're right. Anthony Rizzo could come back. This is going to be his last year with the Yankees, Rizzo. So you don't feel the obligation, oh, well, we have Rizzo on the contract for next year, because the Yankees have a team option. They're not going to pick it up on Rizzo. Ben Rice, even though he got off to a good start, they brought him up, is, so he's leveled out.
Yeah.
Ben Rice is expendable. I would include Ben Rice in the deal for reliever, because I don't think he's the Yankees' long-term answer. Okay, he created a buzz, had a 3-homer game, but I would include him in the deal for reliever. J.D. Davis, oh boy, they picked him up from Oakland. He's short-term for this year. He's certainly not the answer. Vlad Guerrero, big bat. Would Toronto do business with the Yankees? It's a question mark, because in the same division, Toronto's out of it this year. But they might think, if the Yankees sign Vlad long term, do we want him in our division? That might hold up any potential deal.
Great point. And there are a couple of teams that do need first basemen. So
I would try to make a deal for Vlad Guerrero if I could.
Oh, I hear you. A's rookie closer Mason Miller striking out 97% of the people that he faces. So he's another great closer that teams will be taking a look at. And of course, the A's.
Yankees need to upgrade their bullpen.
Oh, big time, Jack.
I think that's their number one priority.
I agree.
Okay, I think first base, yeah, but you might get away with things at first base as they are. Rizzo maybe comes back, maybe gets it together. I wouldn't count on it. Maybe Ben Rice starts hitting again. He hit a ball that was an out yesterday. He hit it to the opposite field, was caught by the fence. So, and you got J.D. Davis. You're patching up the position, but you could maybe get away with it at first base this year. But the bullpen, you absolutely need to upgrade.
I would say that's your first priority. Maybe third base. Yeah. Third base is a question mark. Left field,
you could live with Lemieux and Cabrera. Lemieux the last couple of games has shown a little spark with the bat again, and he's not a bad defensive third baseman. Cabrera, it's not the greatest combo there, Cabrera, Lemieux, but you can get by with them if Anthony Volpe starts hitting again, and he has started hitting the last few games, and then the Judge Soto combo is good, and Badeo starts playing the way he did early in the season. They're like ifs and Gleyber Torres regains his old form. You can get by, but the bullpen, there's no hiding and getting away with things.
I agree.
You can't keep hoping these guys do this or that.
I'll be honest with you, Jack. They could use another starter too. They really could. They could use another starter.
Well, Clark Schmidt should be coming back.
It's average. He's okay.
Well, you got Cole, Cortez, Rondon, Stroman. You're happy. You're happiest starting rotation in place. You're not going to bump one of them out of the starting rotation.
Okay. Well,
you're going to bump.
Listen, Rondon had a good game last game he pitched. They're up and down. The two new ones we got are up and down. I don't know. Hill is better than both of them together here.
Rondon hasn't been bad this year on balance.
Hey, Jack, he's been all right.
Do you keep him till he starts? He's making $26 million a year.
I understand.
You can't trade him at that salary.
Listen. I'm just telling you the truth. All right. Anyway, Trout brought for rehab, back out. Soon as he comes in, he's back out again. A player that he just loves being on the Angels.
Let me tell you, Trout would be a natural with the Phillies. Growing up or the Yankees or the Mets. Being from New Jersey, lives in New Jersey.
He can go with anybody, Jack.
I would try to work a deal with Mike Trout. I think the Angels might be receptive because Trout is one of the highest paid players in baseball. Just to unload the contract. Trout, does he have a few good years left? He's been injured. If he's healthy, he might not be the player he was, but he'll still be a good player. I would love him on the Yankees if they could somehow work a deal. Man, oh man, imagine they can re-sign Soto in trade for Trout. And imagine you put that outfield next year, Soto, Judge, and Trout. Man, oh man, oh man.
How does
That's
that-
like the Rolls Royce outfield.
How
I'm
does this
wincing.
song? How the song go, Jack? I like dreaming. That's what you do.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's get to Roberto Duran because we didn't get to him the last two shows. I got some other stuff that we can wait till Friday to talk about. Roberto Duran, one of the members of the Four Kings. Jack, in my opinion, a lot of other people's opinion, the greatest lightweight champion fighter of all time, bar none. He's the man.
Well, he's the consensus choice for that. I'm going to tell you what's interesting about Duran. Unlike a lot of other fighters, he joined Sugar Ray Robinson in the category of losing a lot of fights late in his career when he was past his peak, yet it hasn't hurt his legacy a great deal. A fighter like Roy Jones lost a lot of fights late in his career, and it hurt his legacy badly. So when we talk about the all-time greats, we acknowledge Jones as a great fighter, but we don't acknowledge him on the short list of the best of all time. Had Roberto Duran retired after the first Sugar Ray Leonard fight where he beat Leonard, he would have retired with a 72-1 record, and the one loss to Esteban de Jesus by decision, he avenged with 2 knockout victories over de Jesus after that. So Duran, I mean, absolutely an all-time great. Absolutely. And he moved up from lightweight to eventually super middleweight, where he beat Iran Barkley. He won other titles along the way when he was past his peak. I was at several of Duran's fights. I was at the Madison Square Garden when he beat Ken Buchanan to win the world lightweight title on June 26, 1972. I was there. There was electricity when Duran was entering the ring, walking down the aisle. I remember the electricity of that night. I mean, excitement. I was there in 1983, June 1983, when Duran, considered past his peak, stopped Davey Moore to win the world junior middleweight title. I'm going to tell you, Matt, you asked me the loudest I've ever heard a crowd at a sporting event, the loudest. And this includes the first Ali Frazier fight I was at. The loudest I ever heard a crowd was at the conclusion of the fight when Duran stopped Moore. The noise was deafening. And I'm going to tell you, but a word about the late Davey Moore, Mac, who, died tragically when his pickup truck rolled backwards over him, at a young age. Davey Moore was born in the Bronx. He won 4 New York Golden Gloves titles here. He was a New Yorker through and through. And to have the crowd turn against him and root for Duran,
Yeah.
I mean, he said they broke my heart. Can you imagine that? This is your city, your town. You've lived here your whole life. You've represented New York, and they're cheering from a guy from Panama. Do you think if Davey Moore was fighting in Panama, people would have cheered for him and against Duran? I mean, come on.
Well,
It annoys me just the thought of that, even though Duran was loved by New York crowds.
Let me give you just a couple facts about Duran. Let's see. He was raised in the slums of El Citorrio, was in the district of La Casa de Piedra, which is a
Great
house of
stuff, man.
House of stone. That's where the Hands of Stone come from, Jack.
Oh, Hands of Stone.
The one thing that I remember about Roberto Duran, who was let me get it. His record was unbelievable, really. I mean, I know he had 16 losses, but he had 169
Well,
wins.
later in his career, the losses were later in his career.
Right. And that's when he was moving up too. As a lightweight, the best to me. I remember watching one of his early fights, Jack, and this is when I was a kid, and I didn't know him. And he was fighting for a lightweight fight. This guy was all over this other fighter. And the other fighter was good too. I mean, at first he's holding on. Roberto Duran came in from every angle, inside, he was like a bee around somebody. He would not stop coming at this guy. He got hit a couple times. It was like it didn't affect him. He was amazing. He memorized me watching him, especially early in the career when he did, I never seen a fighter do that before.
I'll say very quickly, he's a master boxer, thinking man's fighter too.
Unbelievable, man. Thanks for joining us today. We'll be back live Friday. Got a lot of stuff to talk to. Keith Angle will join us. Stay tuned for Coffee and Sports right after us. Huge busy day on Roku. We'll see you soon, folks.